Welcome back. So we reviewed some of the techniques we've learned and practiced, and now we've arrived at this point in this demonstration where we'll try to visualize and create more of a finished piece of artwork. And in this case, I think the best way to highlight some of these subtle color effects would be to place this swan on a black background. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's make a stamp visible layer, Command Option Shift E. And that places our swan on its own layer. Then on a new layer that I'll create below this layer, Command and click on New Layer to create a layer below the current layer. Option Delete to fill that layer with the foreground color, which is black. And then we'll drag a mask. And here you can see the benefit of maintaining that mask throughout the process. At any point now, we can go back into our layer stack, find material that we may like to re-blend or rework into our image, and just continue to work that way with blending modes. And I hope you can see this process is very flexible, very fluid in the way that you're able to visualize variations quickly and easily. So here above our background layer, let's create a new layer, and on that layer with my eyedropper tool selected, by tapping I on my keyboard, I'll find one of these deeper blue colors. And on this layer with my brush set to a soft edge, large brush, we'll just give a hint of a glow in the background and size that in something like that. So now looking at this image, against the black background, I might like to brighten it up just a little bit. There are ways we can do this with typical adjustment layers, but in the context of this demonstration, let's continue with some of the techniques that we've used and see if we can get the effects we want and maybe even a little more customized version of a way to lighten this image. As I mentioned, we can at any time go back into our layer stack, and here I might go back to a layer that we previously used and Command J to copy that and keep my layer stack intact. I'll drag that up to the top, place a mask on it, and now with the blending mode luminosity, I'm able to lighten that image and bring back some of the details that may have been lost when we added those paint daubs. I'd like to keep some of those darker areas, so once again with the blend if sliders, we can tailor our blend by holding the Option key and splitting those sliders. And I think that gives us kind of the best of both. We've lightened the image a little bit and brought back some of that detail. And now looking at the color, except for some of these areas where we have interesting accent colors, it's kind of a dull blue-gray overall, so I'd like to address that. And one thought would be to go all the way back to where we first created this swan with shadow and highlights. And it's basically an overall just flatter color version. So I'll duplicate that and drop that at the top of our layer stack. Once again, I'll drag a mask, and here maybe color burn, linear burn, darker color, or multiply. I think with the color burn, you can see some of those deep stained glass colors happening, and that's overall a little bit dark, so maybe we'll go back to our technique where we place this layer into a group, Command G, and by Option clicking on a new mask icon, just bring up a black mask. Now let's open up a window in that mask like we have before, and by clicking with my brush set to white, just a large area on that mask that I can open and see through. And maybe I'd like to have a flash of bright stained glass color that kind of cuts through right across the head, neck, through the wing, and touches on the tail. So let's reshape this circle, Command T, and create more of an elliptical shape and give it an angle that will somewhat cut across our subject. I'll press return to keep that and then switch back to our mask, and just like before, now we can just see if we can find a nice area to kind of cut right across the whole image and create a band of deeper, richer blues. And I think that's working pretty well. To keep this image from getting maybe a little too dark, what I might do is add a curves adjustment layer, right at the top of our layer stack. And with our curves adjustment layer, maybe I'll just bring the highlights up to brighten the image. Okay, great. Now we're getting some of those jewel-like colors that we talked about at the very beginning of this course. Let's go ahead and make another stamp visible layer. Command Option Shift E and Command J to duplicate that. Let's give our swan a reflection. So in order to do that, let's first drag a full mask, be sure it's linked onto this top layer. Then let's transform the image, Command T, and by right-clicking we can select Flip Vertical. We'll apply that transformation, and now we can slide this layer by holding the Shift key right into a position where it looks like a reflection. Let's place this layer into a group and drag our swan mask back on top, and let's invert that so we can cut away just that piece at the bottom where the two swan shapes intersect. I'll lower the opacity on that layer so that it's not drawing quite so much attention, and then we'll give it a little blur. On the mask, what I would do first though is be sure everything is filled, and then with our mask linked we can just do a simple filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Mine set to about 50, maybe a little too much, and there's 20. And that looks about right. We'll say OK to that. I hope you've enjoyed following along, getting a glimpse into my workflow and how I've been able to create beautiful glass effects by tapping in to the power of Photoshop. So thanks for joining me. In the next video, we'll talk about future steps and we'll discuss our class project. I'll see you right back here.